So today's video is about the effect that stress and trauma have on your brain. And one of the easiest ways to look at that is when we look at the difference between the survival brain and the thinking brain. So if you were to look at the brain, you would see that you have the brain stem coming up to the cerebellum, and then inside the brain is the limbic system. And this area here makes up the survival brain. The outer part of the brain, which has more recently evolved, is known as the neocortex. And this thinking brain part here is involved with, as you probably guessed, thinking, planning, analysis. On the other hand, the survival brain's job is all about emotions, relationships, stress, and survival. Its job is to keep us safe. So stress and trauma originate in the survival brain, and it's involved in the process of neuroception, which is how we detect if people, places, and events are safe, dangerous, or life-threatening. This is an automatic, involuntary decision, and it's not something that we're choosing consciously. The survival brain also has an implicit learning and memory system. This means that learning and memory is something that's always happening from experiences, even if you're not aware of it, and it's an involuntary and automatic process. Now, with the survival brain, the higher level of stress there is, the more you're actually learning. So the brain is storing that information preferentially, and it's also the memories that it recalls the quickest. And from an evolutionary point of view, this makes sense because it's trying to keep us safe. The problem with this is that it can prioritize our safety too much, and this is where triggers happen. So something from your past may be feeling slightly similar to what's happening in the present, but the brain recalls that memory and creates sensations and emotions through your body as though this situation is happening now. So the survival brain, having this negativity bias where it preferentially stores and recalls memories that were stressful or where there's times of trauma, can have an effect on us today because it creates a filter over the present moment. And until we've learnt wise ways to work with that, it can lead to a lot of emotional suffering for us. The way the survival brain communicates with us under stress is it releases neurotransmitters and hormones that create strong waves of sensations and emotions in our body, like anxiety, overwhelm, fear, and this can really make us become reactive. The survival brain's processes happen quickly, so this means we may sometimes react and say something we don't mean before we've had the chance to process if this situation is actually correct or if this response is correct. It can also lead to limited responses of our nervous system. So that means anytime we feel a wave of fear, we may move into fight or flight really quickly. Or anytime we feel that sense of flatness or feeling hopeless in a situation, we may shut down or move into a freeze response. And moving into fight, flight, or freeze has big effects on our emotional health, our physical health, and it also decreases our resilience. So the solution to this is learning to work in the body with bottom-up processes that have an effect on the survival brain. What we know is that the survival brain is non-verbal. It doesn't communicate through thoughts or narrative. It communicates with us through those strong emotions and sensations. And this is the area that we can learn to work with. So learning to become more accurate at what our sensations are and noticing if they're a trigger from the past or if there's something right now that can guide us. We can also utilize the vagus nerve, which sends information or sensations from our belly brain. It sends information from the heart and the lungs, all of these coming up to the brain that actually affect the way that the survival brain will respond. Learning to work with the survival brain in both the heat of the moment and using daily practices is something that can shift the way the brain responds and also the effect that it has on the nervous system too. You can learn practices that help you better regulate your emotions, and you can learn the tools that help to foster resilience. And this is what we'll be teaching in the 6-week vagus nerve program, which is starting on September the 14th. If this is something you'd like to be a part of, then I'd love to have you join in.